Jason, welcome again, and everyone for joining us tonight.
Hi, everyone, and welcome, and thank you, Cecilia, for that introduction. My name is Jason Garner. I'm the Director of Graduate Admissions here at American University's Kogod School of Business. We are located in Washington, D.C. It is quite warm here today and sunny, so welcome from here. Excited to chat with you this evening. I'll go through the PowerPoint. It'll probably take about 15 or 20 minutes to go through the slides, and then I'm happy to open it up at that point for Q&A, for any questions. And I believe there are still opportunities to meet with us on Saturday at the event. So feel free to reach out to the event organizers about that. If you'd like to request a more specific meeting, we'd be happy to meet with you. So the first slide talks about why an MBA and what an MBA is as opposed to a specialized master's degree. And an MBA is a general management degree, whereas a specialized master's, as you may think from the name of the degree, is specialized. So an MS in finance or accounting is going to go very, very deep into that one particular field, and you may not be as exposed to some of the other pieces of business as much. So for instance, if you were to do our MS in finance, most of or all of your classes will be in finance, but you may not take very much in marketing or management or economics or some of the other pieces that you may see in the MBA degree. The MBA is a really versatile degree. I think not all that long ago, people thought you got an MBA so you could work in investment banking or consulting. And you can certainly still do that, but there's a lot more opportunities that you can do with an MBA as well, whether that be in the private or the public sector, the nonprofit, international development. We see students really take our MBA to a variety of different industries and functions. We do have a STEM designated MBA, and that is the whole degree. So there's not a specific track or focus area. If you earn your MBA at Kogod, it is STEM designated. What that means for international students is it allows you to extend your 1 year of work authorization. It allows you to extend that once you've graduated from the program. So that can make it easier for students to find work here in the US if that's their goal when they graduate from the program. Our average class size is about 30 students, and that's across the board in all of our programs. So you're going to be seeing a lot of individualized attention from your faculty, as well as from the staff resources that we have. We have a Center for Business Communication that works with students on their written and oral presentation skills. We have our Office of Career Engagement that's dedicated to the school and has dedicated coaching specifically for the MBA program. So looking at like things for internships and post MBA job placement is really the utmost important to our dean, and that's what he thinks is the most important thing that we do for our MBA students, is to help them take that next step in their career. That's why you're coming to business school in the first place. Our campus is an arboretum, and sustainability is one of our top priorities. So we are the first carbon neutral campus in the United States. That's something that we're quite proud of, but we're certainly not done, even though we've met that goal. So we offer an MS in sustainability management here within the School of Business, and each of our different graduate schools also offers a degree through that academic lens that focuses on sustainability. So environmental and social impact is something that's very important and very core to who we are as an institution. Cecilia mentioned taking advantage of being here in Washington, D.C. We're certainly known for having the U.S. federal government, and that's very true. They are very much here. That's a lot of what you hear and see on TV and in the news about Washington, but there's a lot else here as well. Amazon is building their HQ2 just across the river in Northern Virginia. Our Dulles corridor has a lot of tech and cybersecurity. The Big Four all have a large presence here, so there's a lot of consulting that happens in the DC area as well. We are on the East Coast and part of the Northeast corridor, so it's very easy to get to places like Philadelphia, Boston, and New York from DC by train or plane or car. There's a lot of international organizations, and of course, all the foreign embassies are here as well. So our campus is just across the street from the Japanese embassy, which is an interesting thing to pass every day on the way to and from work and school. But things like the USAID, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank are all located here, and we certainly have students pursue opportunities at those institutions as well. We were founded in 1955, so we've been doing this for quite a while. While we do have small graduate programs, we do have more than 800 graduate students across our 13 programs. I mentioned that we do have some Master in Science programs as well. So this means that we offer electives and have faculty expertise in each of these different areas. So things like accounting, analytics, finance, marketing, real estate, the sustainability that I mentioned, and taxation, we offer an entire degree within that field. So we have a full department, full faculty, bench and research areas. So if these are things that are interesting to you, these are also things that we offer and can certainly be combined in the MBA. By having about 800 students, our programs are large enough that you can build that professional network, but still small enough that you're getting that individualized attention and not just a face in the crowd. So our faculty to student ratio is 13:1. And one of the other great ways that we take advantage of Washington here, the Washington, D.C. area, is by taking advantage of guest speakers that we're able to bring into campus, but also bringing professional lecturers and experienced practitioners from the area. DC is such a very well-educated city, and there's so many experts in their fields, and we take advantage of that by having them come into our classroom and teach. And many of our faculty really kind of take advantage of this revolving door as well. They too will have their hand in industry and be active there. That means they have current networks of folks in those fields, but also have real life experience that they bring into the classroom. So Professor Harris is the chair of our finance department, and he recently returned from a sabbatical where he took an appointment at the US Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC. So who better to teach students about government financial regulation than someone who was working directly in that industry and then bringing that right back into the school. And we really do see a lot of that with our faculty. Mentioning some of our other faculty here, Professor Evans is one of our accounting faculty. She was actually part of the forensic accounting team that worked on the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. So probably one of the most notable forensic accounting cases ever. And we have a faculty member who was directly involved in that. It's quite common for our accounting and taxation faculty to testify in front of the US Congress on both domestic and international tax policy. So again, I can't speak enough about the expertise that our faculty are bringing into the classroom for our students. It is a 2-year program, and the first year is when you'll take many of your core courses, things that you would probably expect to find in business school, things like management, accounting, statistics, marketing. A couple of the unique things there, we do have our leadership luncheon series and skills workshops. So every Wednesday we provide lunch for our students, and we will bring in a speaker or have someone come in and do a workshop on things like Tableau, or really kind of digging into specific skills that students will be looking for as in addition to things that you're learning in your classes. And then at the end, we'll do our global consulting project. We have been there in Colombia and other parts of Latin America before. We've also been to India. Our most recent project was in London. We are hoping that students will be able to travel in the spring for this at the end of the year. That remains to be seen, I think, as we continue to watch the COVID-19 pandemic envelop. But students will work with a live client and then actually go abroad to present those findings and deliverables in person. So you're working on a real client project, a real consulting project. We purposely source these through our alumni and through our dean's office, and we're looking for clients that are really going to work with our students and really give them the opportunity to really get their hands into this consulting project. So everyone will have some international experience as well as some consulting experience on their resume when they graduate. An internship is not technically required, but many of our students, nearly all of our students, will do an internship over the summer. That's a very big key piece of the 2-year MBA. So it's very, very common for students to do an internship. And as I mentioned, our career services folks will start working with you over the summer, even before you begin and through orientation, on helping you find that internship. In the second year, that's when you come back and have the opportunity to tailor your degree with your electives. So those are taking things in consulting or finance or management, different things that you can continue to study at a higher level. We won't leave you alone to figure that out. You'll have an academic advisor and your career advisor as well. Will help you determine what electives makes the most sense for what it is that you're trying to do. We do also offer a certificate in business analytics, and that has been extremely popular with our MBA students. As I mentioned, our international opportunities, we've been quite literally all around the world. Some of them are business to business or B2B, some are B2C, some are US market entry or global expansion. These tend to be some of the types of topics. And we've worked with GE, we've worked with the auto industry, we've worked on with sustainability things, we've worked with Bloomberg. So the types of projects and the types of industries really can vary. We also do site visits here in DC. I'd mentioned the US government being here, as well as startups and small businesses and entrepreneurship. So we also take advantage of bringing our students out into the city, in addition to bringing the city onto campus with that expertise. So it's very common for our students to do site visits here in the DC area as well. There's a lot of business school that happens outside of the classroom. It's a lot about finding that networking and making those connections. So there'll be a lot of events put on by student organizations and clubs and different things for you to get involved in. Some are very business focused, like a finance club or a marketing club, and some are fun and some are more activities that you can take advantage of. Not just within the business school, but these also exist across the university. So meeting other graduate students and other programs. DC has 11 universities in the metro area. So there are a lot of graduate students and young people here. There's plenty of opportunity to network and to meet people and do things. I talked about some of our guest speakers that come in. Here you see we've had folks from Salesforce, from IBM, from Marriott. The Marriott headquarters are actually just a few miles away from campus in Bethesda, Maryland, and Accenture as well. So again, bringing in these experts to talk to our students about what's happening in their field, the types of things that they're looking for in their hiring process, and just getting to know more about what it's like to work in that industry and the types of things that are happening there. We do have an annual case competition that our students will participate in. We also sponsor our students to participate in other case competitions that happen. It's a great opportunity for students to work on their presentation skills, to work on their consulting skills. Typically, there's prizes or funding that students can win, particularly if you're interested in entrepreneurship and getting startup funding through case competitions. Typically, the judges are also industry professionals, so it's also a great way to audition for a job, really. Many of the times they're there watching and judging these competitions, they're also shopping for talent. So it's a great opportunity for students to really show their skills to these industry professionals. We do have our dedicated Office of Career Engagement that really kind of puts each of the different things that they do into one of these three categories: the events and activities that they offer, the coaching that they offer, and the technology resources. So many times it's not a human being, it's a computer that would be reading your resume or your application. So making sure that your resume has those key bullet points that stick out for artificial intelligence to be the first set of eyes that would read your application. Individual coaching, particularly when it comes to practice interviewing, networking skills, and then events and activities, whether that means that we're bringing employers to campus or we're sponsoring our students to attend large career fairs. Again, that career piece is really something that's so important to us and something that we really spend a lot of time and focus on. Our students come from a variety of different backgrounds, including students that don't have a business undergrad or business background, and therefore you see that reflected in where students will go as well. Consulting and financial services, I think, are the top industries that you'll see at nearly any business school. But we have students going into nonprofit, technology, and other industries as well. Here are some of our sample employers that you see. And again, it's a mix of a lot of the things I talked about before. So you see public, you see private, you see international, you see banking, you see healthcare, you see technology. There's a lot of different things that our students will do when they finish our program. Our class profile, so these are averages. So each year these will change. These are not minimums. I always think that's important to stress to students, but these are averages. And I think some of the things that really stick out here are the representation that we have of female and international students. in our program, as well as our average years of experience being around 5. Again, that's an average, so there will be folks both above and below that. But typically our candidates will have at least a few years of post-undergraduate professional experience before joining the program. We also offer a few dual degrees with our School of International Service and with our Washington College of Law. Typically, this will add an additional year to the program. So these are specifically for students who have an interest that would make sense for them to earn both of those degrees. So applying for admission, we do have an online application. Our online application for next fall will open shortly, next month. As a thank you for coming to today's session, we will send you an application fee waiver code, so it won't cost you anything to apply to Kogod. We asked for a personal statement or essay, and here we want to know more about why is this the next step for you and why have you chosen Kogod to pursue your MBA. So talk about some of those gaps, the things that you're looking to learn in business school. I think some students can be afraid to talk about any of the gaps in their skill set, but if you didn't have those gaps, you wouldn't be looking for a graduate degree. So talk about, I don't have a lot of exposure to finance, and that's something I want to learn more about because I think it can be useful in my career in the following ways. This is why an MBA is the next step for me. It's the right step for business school. And here's what I'd like to do with this degree once I've completed it, how I hope to use those skills in my career in the future. Those are the types of things that we're looking for in the essay. The most important thing is that you're honest and that yourself. Tell us what your story is. This is an opportunity for you to speak directly to the admissions committee more about you and your background. We asked for your current resume. We don't have a prescribed format for the application process. We will if you become a student here. The Career Center will work with you on that. But for now, typically 1 page per 10 years of work experience is appropriate. If it spills into 2 pages, that's fine. We don't penalize you for that. If you're not a published author or faculty researcher, we probably don't need a 25-page CV. So usually 1 to 2 pages is appropriate. And there we're looking for a history of some of the things that you've done, some of your key accomplishments. And this can be awkward for students as well to talk about themselves in this way. But we want to know some of the key things that you've accomplished. If you've managed budgets, if you've led teams, if you've had any sort of leadership experience, and not necessarily management. It's fine if you haven't been someone's boss or their direct supervisor, or you were responsible for their performance review. That's great if you have that experience, but it's not necessary. That's management, but we're also looking for leadership. So if you've taken point on a key project, or you've been the point person for a contract or for a particular client at your organization, these are all great things to highlight in your resume as well. We ask for 1 letter of recommendation. Typically, we're looking for a professional letter. So we ask that it comes from typically your current employer. If your current employer is not aware that you're applying to business schools and therefore probably leaving the organization in July of next year, just let us know. That's fine. At that point, you may want to ask a mentor, a former supervisor, a client. If you work for a family business, we do ask that you find someone who is not a blood relative. If you work for a family business, we understand that your parent may be your boss and maybe your supervisor, but typically we're looking for not blood relatives to write your letter. So we understand that that letter may look a little different than some other candidates, and that's fine. We do not need an academic letter, so don't feel that you need to go hunting for a professor from your undergraduate that you haven't spoken to in years to write that letter for you. We do prefer that it's professional. We ask for transcripts of all universities that you've attended. We just ask that that transcript come to us in English, which can typically be provided by your college or university. We do not require an evaluation. So WES or WES is probably the most notable one. We'll certainly accept that if you have it, but we do not require it. We're very familiar with international transcripts. We've read many of them before. We're quite familiar that it may be out of a 5.0 or a 10.0 scale, and that the grading system may be different where you're from, that you may have a 5th-year specialization that we don't really have here in the United States. I know that's quite common there in Colombia. So again, we're very familiar with seeing an international transcript and understanding what that means. We're not going to force it into a 4.0 scale. We're not going to do any sort of interesting math with your GPA, we're going to take your transcript in the context of where you went to school and what you studied. Engineering is probably one of the most notable outliers here. Engineers tend to have lower GPAs because that's the nature of engineering. So we understand that, that the grades are relative to where you went to school and what you studied. We are test optional. So if you have a GMAT or GRE score, we're happy to take it. But we do not penalize you for not submitting a score. We've actually been test optional for several years now. It's one data point that can predict how you can perform in business school, but we don't think it's the only thing that there is. So we really do a holistic process of looking at all the different pieces of your application here to make an admissions decision. So you're more than just a test score, but if you have a score, we are happy to include that in the evaluation. We do require a valid English language score. We accept the TOEFL, the IELTS, and Duolingo. I'll refer you to our application guide. There's a wide variety of reasons why you may not require or you may waive this. And I'd encourage you to take a look directly at that. If you still have questions, feel free to send us your transcripts and your resume, and we can let you know if we would require a test score or not. And then an optional essay is just that. It is optional. So this is an opportunity, if you need to explain things to the admissions committee. So perhaps you had a semester in college where your grades really suffered because of a family or medical issue. Maybe you started out in the wrong major or at the wrong school. It took you a little bit to kind of get on your feet and get your undergraduate performance together. Maybe there's a gap in your resume for some reason. These are things that you could use this opportunity to explain. But you do not need to use this as an opportunity to tell us things that we already know. So it is optional. So if you don't have anything to say there, you don't need to fill that out, and that doesn't hurt your application in any way. And finally, an interview. We typically do these over Zoom. However, we will be doing them back on campus if you were able to get to campus to visit in the fall. This is a 30-minute conversation with a member of the admissions committee and just an opportunity to get to know you better. You should prepare for it the same way you would prepare for a job interview. Our application deadlines for next year, we typically have 3 rounds for international students in November, January, and April. We encourage all students who need a student visa to apply no later than April so that we make sure we have time to process all of your visa documents and get you physically here to start the program in August. Earlier tends to be better, but I'd rather have your strongest application as soon as you have it ready. So if it's November 13th and you haven't started your application, I would much rather you wait until January and give me your best work as opposed to something you could throw together in 2 days to meet the November 15th deadline. We do have both admission and scholarship available in each of these rounds. Obviously, the later you apply, the less seats in the class and the less scholarship dollars there are available, but we're never out. So we make sure that there's still an opportunity in each of the rounds. The total cost of the program is around $88,000 US and around $1,500 or so for housing accommodations. We do not offer on-campus housing for graduate students, but we do have an office of off-campus housing that can help students look for places. We also do a series of webinars about living and moving to Washington. So that's something the university provides a lot of support for, even though you would be living off campus. Scholarships and financial aid, all students are considered for merit-based scholarship when you apply. And there's nothing additional that you need to do to be considered. We do have a question. We ask if you'd like to be considered for scholarship. That question can feel a little silly for some candidates. Typically, the only reason you would not want to be considered is if you were sponsored by the government or by a company. The vast majority of students do want to be considered. That doesn't impact the way we evaluate you. It just means we have a conversation about scholarship. They're provided at the time of admission. They're holistic. So all the things I talked about that go into the application also go into the scholarship decision. And you receive, if you're admitted and awarded any funding, that information comes at one time together. It's not based on financial need. Need-based aid is a separate office and a separate process. We do have a list of historical lenders that have worked with international students and different ways that you can do some research. If it's a domestic loan here in the US, you may or may not require a US cosigner or collateral in some way that can impact your interest rate. There's a whole department that works specifically with that. So we in admissions are certainly not the experts on need-based financial aid, but we can point you to those resources. And additional ways to connect with us. We will have a class visit program, as I mentioned, again in the fall. You have the opportunity to contact a graduate ambassador. We are available on Campus Reel, which is the place where you can go and watch videos that have been created by our students and telling their own stories. You can chat with us on our website. You can also schedule an appointment to meet with us or with any of our faculty directors. So we'd love to keep the conversation going. And as I mentioned, there may still be room to meet with us on Saturday. So if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one appointment during this event, we'd be happy to meet with you. If that doesn't work out, you can certainly shoot me an email. I'll throw it in the chat here, and we can always schedule an appointment to meet another time as well. So on that note, thank you. I'm going to open it up for questions. So feel free to put those in the chat box. I'm not sure if you have the ability to raise your hand and speak. So go ahead and put those in the chat box. They will be anonymously answered, so I won't say that it was you who said this question. If it's very specific, I'll just respond to you in text. But if it's something where the answer may help everyone, I will read the question aloud and answer it. Again, reading the question aloud anonymously, so no one will know it was you who asked that.
Thank you, Jason, for this presentation. Really, I mean, I think American is a very good option. We have had some Colombian students who have gone there to Kogod and had a wonderful experience, like the one-to-one, like cater to all students, and the opportunities that there are in DC are amazing. So I wanted to ask you about the secret to an outstanding application. What do you have a memory of an essay that comes to you that brings that personality of the applicants there, that you just get glued to the essay and admit that person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think what makes a great candidate is someone who's being really honest about what they're looking for. And really self-aware. So a lot of this process is really thinking about what are the things that you've done in your past, both professionally and academically, classes that you've taken, things that you've learned, experiences that you've had, and why have those things inspired you to pursue this degree? Why is an MBA the right next step for you? And then have you done your research about it? Many MBA programs are different. They offer different things and different experiences. What is it about our program that you think is the right fit for you? Why do you think that you would excel in our program? And those are the types of things that we want you to be able to talk about in your essay and in your interview. Someone asked about resources to create a startup during their MBA. And yes, we do have a center for innovation. So we have entrepreneurship opportunities here on campus at both the graduate and the undergraduate level. That center, while mostly used by business students, is also open to the entire university. So it's possible to see students from the law school or from other parts of the academic realm as well who are interested in entrepreneurship. So DC has quite a bit of a startup culture, and there's certainly an opportunity to participate in that here at Kogod.
Thank you. Some students have expressed their concern about their CVs that American universities don't know, like small companies or family business. How can they tailor their resume to that?
Right. So we're all familiar with PwC, right? So if you work at PwC, we know what that means. But if you work at a smaller business or a family business or something that's less known, that's certainly okay as well. We have the internet, so we can certainly research your organization and look on LinkedIn and other places to get more information. but really talk about the things that you've accomplished there. You could provide a very brief description of what your organization does and what your role there is. Many times students who work at smaller organizations or smaller companies may have a lot more responsibilities. If you're working at a very large multinational organization, you probably have a very defined role. Whereas if you work for a small organization and there's only a few of you, you probably do a lot of different things. So we understand both of those contexts. So it certainly doesn't disadvantage you in any way that you work for a smaller business or a business that's maybe very familiar there in your country, but not as much in the United States. We're able to assess that as well. So don't think that puts you at a disadvantage if you don't work for, Fortune 500 company.
Thank you. What about, I've seen, I think one of the participants works for the government, and it's really difficult to quantify accomplishments. And even though you work very hard, how can you portray it on your CV?
Yeah, right. So if you work for the government, it's probably hard to say that the whole GDP was because of you. So that's probably not a way to quantify it the way that you could in other industries. But you can talk about some of the projects that you've led, initiatives that you've done, research that you've done, the impact that you've had. Those are the types of things that we would be looking for if you work in a government role. Being here in DC, this probably won't surprise you. We see a lot of government background and government experience. So we're quite used to that and quite familiar with what that means and what that looks like. Someone asked about official transcripts. That's a great question. We only need your unofficial transcripts to apply. We only need your officials if you are admitted and you choose to matriculate to the university. You can send your officials at any time if that's easier for you to just get it done. But many times you can download an unofficial copy from the university web portal and upload that into your application.
Oh, Jason, thank you so much for the presentation, for answering all the questions. I don't know if someone else has a question. It's here. It's now the time to ask it. No, seems that not. Thank you, Jason. So I hope to see you on Saturday, and everyone. We will have admissions panels at 9, alumni panel at 10:30, and then the one-on-one interviews that we expect that if you have received an email with your schedule, that you confirm your appointments. So thank you very much. Tomorrow we will have the last set of presentations. Following this presentation, we'll have a Rotman Business School, and we hope to see you there. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks,
Jason.
everyone, and thanks, Cecilia.
Bye.